they use that reverse as a way of getting their body at a better point. You still better your body, you still graduate your body back up. And sometimes you actually make improvements if you do a reverse slow enough. So like I said, body is all about homeostasis. It's all about homeostatic environment. So if you do anything too crazy to it, it's going to disrupt and it's going to cause chaos. But if you give your body time to adjust, it's always going to adapt. It's going to adapt to a low calorie diet eventually, as well as it's going to adapt to a high calorie diet. But you got to have those transitional periods where you're allowed to actually do that. And I think Justin even admits too, like, he's seen it too with a lot of his clients too, where he tries to focus a lot on reversing them out, and make sure they're doing things right, getting their hormones balanced and things like that. Because of course, if you are supplementing on the PED side of things, of course, we definitely want to make sure your body's getting normalized too at the same time. So when you're back to a normal baseline, because that's going to be for us, long-term health is what we're looking at there. And since he works with a lot of hormones and things like, he sees a lot that kind of goes on, behind that a lot. I mean, I'm sure he's seen probably about a couple of thousand labs by now. So it's like, I've seen a lot of labs. He's seen a lot of labs. Sometimes if I have a question on something, I'll ask him, because I was like, you know what? He's probably seen it's like crap ton more than I have. But, at the same time, me and him do a lot of dialogue together. We talk a lot because, of course, there's always be some cases that's going to stop either him or me. And actually, Justin's been a key coach of mine for a while. We've been working together for probably at least 8 years now. It's been a long time. So, I have complete respect for his knowledge as well as, he has for mine. Hey, buddy. He likes to be home a lot. But I'll let Justin.
Yeah, and so kind of going back to the whole Rice Krispie thing too, you gotta think about what your workout is as well. If you're going to the gym and you're hitting a very anaerobic type of workout, you're doing legs, for instance, having a huge meal before that is probably not the best idea, because you got to also think about how good is your digestion. If your digestion is poor, you're bloated and you're burping the whole entire time, you might even have to reflux in the middle of a set of squats or something like that. It's not ideal, because ultimately digestion is going to be the key to any of what we're wanting to do. We have to have, our digestion needs to be on point at all times. Because if you're one of those people that goes to the bathroom every 2 to 3 days, your digestion is terrible. I'm going to be honest with you. So think about kind of what you're doing. Digestion all starts in the mouth. Most people here, I will just kind of venture to say that we don't chew enough, first of all. So we're not getting the proper digestion even to begin with. And then as it travels down and does its thing, it's already having to break it down even a harder time doing that. And so if you're doing a really, aggressive anaerobic type of workout and you have a whole bunch of food in the system, to me, having a smaller, lighter meal before you work out and do something like legs or back or something like that, it would be more beneficial than eating a little bit to more of the rest digest, because you really want, because if I go in, I'm hitting back or legs, like my sympathetic nervous system is all I want. It's just going to be, I'm just fighting to survive through the workout. So if I were to turn on like rest and digest before that, what am I doing? And so you got to work on your parasympathetic nervous system too, because we're all pretty much always stressed out. We're all drinking caffeine all day long and stuff. So you got to think about different things to rest and let your digestion do its thing, because if your digestion is off at all, it's going to be a difficult time for you. So, in my experience, like I feel like most people do best with more of because a lot of times in the coaching industry, we just want to, get them fed, get them bulked up, do a little off-season type of thing. But my experience, I think we need to get people healthy first. And so if they're not eating the right nutrition, they're deficient in pretty much every vitamin, because I see it every time. I look at lab work every single day. So I can tell when there's a deficiency in B12 just by looking at a CBC. I can look at a TPO antibodies, and I can tell if somebody's thyroid is not functioning correctly, if they're zinc or selenium deficient. So I can tell little subtle things just in basic blood work. And if those things are off, I know that their entire diet's a mess. So, got to make sure that you get you're healthy first, your digestion is on point, and then you can start worrying about the feeding portion. And so that's kind of my stickler about the whole approach to any of my clients that I do, is I want to make sure that we get them everything, and it might be half that rack, you know what I mean? So, it just depends on the person. So, you know, like, especially, you know, if you're talking about, you know, most of my, like, my, you know, lifestyle type candidate or clients are going to be probably on the lower end of, like, protein, for instance, you know, so they might be 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of protein per, you know, body weight or whatever. But my guys that have been conditioned and they've been working out their whole life, they're going to probably need more protein. But still, I'm not a huge fan of a whole lot of protein. I'm not pushing 2.5 grams per pound or anything like that. But, you know, you still, no matter what anyone says, you know, all those guys that are taking that much protein in, they're using something like betaine, or they're using digestive enzymes, because we want to function as best as we can, and we need to push food in order to do that. So if we're trying to bulk up or something like that, we need to make sure that digestion is always there. Off season is the most critical part of it. When you're in prep, it's already too late. You're just going to get what you have. You're just going to strip down what you already have. So you can't, I mean, there might be some genetics and there might be some drugs that'll help, but most people don't really grow into shows. They just lean out and they just slowly, steadily decline in weight. So,
I had something I wanted to kind of bring up. You mentioned that most people don't chew enough, and I think that is so vital to understanding, like, breakdown of critical vitamins, minerals, and other antioxidant benefits. How many of you guys have ever, like, seen an advertisement or taken, like, a greens supplement? They're really popular, like athlete. You can't listen to a podcast these days without hearing about AG1. Guys, keep in mind that our own salivary amylase, like the enzyme that is in our mouth as we are chewing up food, and specifically green vegetables, things like broccoli, spinach, kale, etc., that binds with the enzyme, or not the enzymes, the phytochemicals, we'll say, within these green vegetables that allow them to become active and used by our body, right? So, for example, there's an amazing compound within broccoli. Guys, if y'all have ever heard of Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she talks about it a lot. It's called sulforaphane, right? It's very, very amazing antioxidant, anti-cancer benefits, etc. We can't actually extract that without chewing up the broccoli itself. So when we look at a green supplement, for example, keep in mind that is all desiccated and dehydrated, and the large portion of those phytochemicals and benefits are taken out. And I hate to say that because I sell greens, but I sell them under the guise of understanding that you're getting fiber, right? A few vitamins, a few minerals, a few probiotics, a few prebiotics. Great. But they're not giving you the replacement of vegetables. And I also kind of had a question for all of you guys, because we were talking about timing, right? In y'all's experience, I have, like, somewhat of an opinion, but I'm not in that realm. Do you guys emphasize meal timing prior and post training more so in a competition prep versus in a bulk phase? Like when there's a surplus of calories available versus a restriction? How do we go about that?
Honestly, for me, it's always depending on the athlete too. I say a lot of times if it's like one of my bigger bodybuilding, even class physique guys, we will do more timing with them because a lot of times, you know, they're probably having a good bit more calories in their diet even in the beginnings of prep. So I feel like timing at that point is like something we can use and use to our benefit,
right?
Especially if we are doing things that are going to be we're adding some supplement protocols that do involve timing more. So yeah, of course, we'll key in on a lot more of that. Now, granted, in the long-term scheme of things, most time I say it's all about still calories out, calories in overall through a day period, as long as you got enough space in between your meals where you're creating that need to have the next meal, or you actually have it where your body is ready to consume. And that way, of course, we're in that point where, of course, I'm just more focused with not necessarily its timing, it's just getting those meal bases in. Now, granted, I know I have some clients that sometimes can be pressed for times, things like that. And the last thing I want them to do is like shovel food in in a quick window. So a lot of times if I have to, we have to adjust even the meal basis in terms of the amount of meals and things like that. And honestly, and that's the thing is, it's just based on that. And of course, now if you're getting into the terms of like intermittent fasting and all that, now, of course, I think we can do a little bit more timing too, because of course we are having a period of fasting. We are having to get whatever meals it may be, whether it's 3 or 4 meals in that, window. So of course, timing is a big thing because you still don't want to overconsume.
Right.
And I think it's where intermittent fasting can can work with people or it can fail for people. Because I think some people use intermittent fasting as almost like, oh, it's an excuse I can eat whatever I want in that window. And it's not. And honestly, in a sense, stuff, you're basically, the intermittent fasting is really good. And sometimes I put people on who have severe digestive issues. Because basically what we're doing, we're cleaning the gut out. We're basically allowing the body to get rehydrated, make sure the colon is hydrated. Because guess what? If your colon and your intestines are not hydrated, you're not going to digest crap. The crap's going to sit there. Your digestion is going to slow down. And honestly, the biggest factor for most people I see, even lifestyle and competition, is not getting enough hydration. And also getting those key components earlier on. Because you got to think, whenever we sleep at night, we're fasting already, and based on how long you sleep 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. You got to think that's a period too. You're not consuming any type of fluid. That's why like every morning when you get up, even if you're a super hydrated person, your urine is always going to be a little bit on the probably yellower side, more yellow. So you got to think you're already starting off the day dehydrated. And if you're that person who doesn't really drink anything for the first few hours, stuff, you're already falling way behind. So by the time, and if you're eating something in the process, you got to think, I'm consuming solid bulk food, but I have no hydration in my colon. So I'm already slowing down peristalsis through my intestines. My intestines need fluid. They need fluid to push food through to help process. So I'm not getting it. I'm already backing myself up, not knowingly. So a lot of times what I do, even with a lot of my clients, I'll say, when you first get up, whether they have a bottle that's ready for them, I say, have a bottle ready. That way you got to drink it. And it's like a 16 or 20 ounce bottle. I even have some of them that I'll have them put a little bit of pectin, or like a 4 teaspoons of pectin Malay salt, because we lose so much sodium too. And I know a lot of people, and I feel like more women than men are more scared of using sodium because they're afraid of bloating and stuff. Well, bloating only happens if you're dehydrated and you're having a lot of sodium. Like if I was the guy who maybe drank, 60 ounces of like fluid a day, that might not be water, and I'm eating like burger and fries, my digestive system will be very, very slow because I'm definitely not getting enough hydration in my system. So a lot of times what I do is I'll prioritize more fluid, getting it earlier on. And especially if we are doing intermittent fasting, I will sometimes have my clients try to fall in, whether it be 60 to sometimes 100 plus ounces of water during that window that they're fasting, So that way, when they do consume that first meal, their body is hydrated, their body's ready, their grelins kicking, they're ready to eat, and their body's more efficiently digested. And then, of course, I do have, and I like doing this too. Now, granted, if I don't have someone who's on an intermittent fasting diet in general, I might throw an intermittent fasting day. Okay. And a lot of times that might be I call it Sunday recomp day. And what it is a lot of times my clients who, my schedule, she can vouch for it. So, for instance, like we stick to our bodybuilding diet during the week. And of course, I'm really nice to Jamie. So I'll give her a cheat meal on Saturday. Well, she gets a cheat meal and she gets to sub it in for 2 or 3 of her base meals. Well, that Sunday, I'm like, okay, this is the day that's good for recomp because it was a rest day for us. It's a day that your body can go through some fasting because you just had a pretty heavy cheat meal, something that you probably crave for the whole week. And of course, it gives us a chance to rehydrate, reset our digestion. That way, when Monday morning rolls around, guess what? Our body's ready and primed, ready to go. It's cleaned out. It feels a lot better. And she can tell you, we actually started implementing last prep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like it made a difference for her too. I feel like it definitely made some changes. I think it just really sparked, digestion a lot better. Even this year, I feel like even like we were talking the other day, we reversed her out of her last show, and actually our calories are basically at the highest they've ever been in her diet ever week. Yeah. And she's been able to stay a lot leaner this year. And she's, never complains about energy. She's always got energy. She loves training. She's gotten, great progression in the gym this year. So, for us, doing the intermittent fasting is actually a good thing. Some people I think always fear intermittent fasting, especially us who want to put all sides like, oh, I'm going to lose my gains. Well, technically, you're not going to lose. And if anything, you're going to create an environment that's going to actually cause your base hormones to get pushed up more. Pituitary secretion is going to be higher. So your IGF-1 factor is going to go up higher. So intermittent fasting is not a bad thing. It's actually good. It's healthy. It's just using it in the right moments. That's going to benefit you and benefit definitely the digestive process. I guess if Jamie, do you want to discuss a little bit of that, how it goes? At first, it was hard work. I got complaints about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I was hungry.
Oh, yeah, because she was just like, oh, it's killing me. But, I think probably after, a few weeks, you got to adjust it to it. And it was easier.
It was easier.
Yeah.
Once I started doing it consistently. It's with anything with bodybuilding and with life. Once you do it consistently, your body adjusts to it over time. Of course, it's going to suck at first.
Yeah.
But that's, part of the process. And just don't complain about it. Like I went to him saying stuff about it because I just wanted to make sure that my body was reacting the way that it should be reacting to it. Because sometimes I do have issues with my blood sugar will drop. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't messing with any of that stuff. Also, kind of to piggyback on what they were saying earlier, from an athlete standpoint, if your coach is not asking you about how your digestion is going, especially during prep, that's a problem. Trey, from the beginning, whenever we started working together, especially being a female, our hormones are crazy. And I'm sure all of y'all experience it every month. This yo-yo. And if you've been on birth control, which is a taboo topic, it makes it even worse. I highly recommend going and having your blood work done because more than likely your jaw's going to drop when you get those numbers back. I know that mine did. And once we were able to level everything out, because when I did start training with Trey, I felt so tired and so sluggish, not necessarily during my workouts, because I am a crackhead and I do load up on caffeine. But once that caffeine would drop, I felt like crap. Like there would be some days once we got home in the evenings and it was all I could do, not fall asleep on the couch. So got my levels and everything checked. We got everything regulated. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like a brand new person. So then each time I go through prep now, we get my levels checked to make sure that everything is where it should be. And if it's not, then we tweak it, we figure it out, what needs to be fixed, what doesn't. And by blood work, I don't mean going to your doctor and them sending it off to LabCorp. That's not it. You need a full panel where they test your estrogen, they test your testosterone, your T3, your T4, your liver enzymes, the whole gamut. And that's where this guy comes into play. But yes, and even if you're not competing, that's something that you need to do just to make sure that you're taking care of your body and you're doing things the right way on a day-to-day basis, because you can prevent so much just by having your blood work up, because something that they find early on can prevent something really big and catastrophic later on down the road. But also on the digestive thing, when I was going through prep the first time, you've got to make sure that everything's still moving, especially when your calories get low. Even if you're pumping, that gallon of water in your system, your digestive tract, when you minimize it and when you're eating just a certain number of foods every day, and that's all that you're putting in your body for weeks at a time, your body is going to react different to different things. And two, like we came across my second prep where I was eating rice. Well, then my body decided I don't like rice anymore. So then we had to switch over to sweet potatoes because I needed carbs. But so you have to listen to your system. And if you're using the bathroom regularly and then all of a sudden it stops, there's an issue with what you're eating and your digestive tract. And the first time that Trey asked me, he was like, so how are you doing going to the bathroom? I'm like, excuse me.
Very personal.
Yeah. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, that's part of it. But yeah, your coach should be asking you that. That should be something that you absolutely pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't be going days at a time without going. That's not normal. That's not regular. Even if it's something that you've done your whole life, like there's something in your system and in your body that's off.
And nutrient timing too, like for me, it kind of goes back again, digestion. So, it depends on entirely the person. Everybody's got to talk about. I'm just a digestion guy, but bowel movement guy. But if you're slow, like you probably don't need to eat 5, 6, 7 times a day. You should probably follow your migraine-motor complex a little bit more closely, which is like a 4 to 5 hour spacing in between each meal. Mm-hmm. And so, depending on digestion, if you're one of those people that still can poop every time you eat, great. Like you can probably, do every 1.5 to 3 hours or whatever. But for my slow people, it's going to kind of depend on that. And then as far as water, you guys talked about water. You could probably tell him to get trace minerals work really good for that. I don't know if you have some.
Yep.
Yeah, just add that to your water. Another thing you could try if you don't want to do that, you could do like the dirtiest sea salt you can find.
Yeah.
The real gray, nasty.
What is that stuff they sell at like Tractor Supply that people take for all the sea minerals? What is that, like mud or whatever? I wouldn't condone that. It's terrible, but yeah.
I'm sure it's, you know.
I was going to say too, sorry to cut you off, man. If anybody over there can't see, we've got plenty of room right here if you guys want to like make your way over here instead of blocking the door, but it's up to you. Yeah, we're right here. We got plenty of room, but no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to let them know.
And then, as far as, blood work, I pretty much at push mode, what I'll do is you come in, you get my nurse will do some lab work. And then I will sit down with you in an individual consult, whether or not I want to sell you on anything or not, but I'll at least go through all of your blood work. Typically what I'm checking is a CBC, like I kind of alluded to earlier. That's just going to kind of make sure if anything's red on the CBC, we got a problem. It's nutrient deficiency typically, or there's something else going on. If you're female, you might be hemorrhaging blood too much or something, but we got to figure out what to do to offset a lot of that stuff. But, do a CMP, look at liver, kidney health. We'll do a full panel of your thyroid. So not just, free T3, free T4, TSH. Those are your basic stuff that your doc's going to look at. But I'm also looking at antibodies. And so if your antibodies are up even over like 20, I'm going to say you got to watch your gluten. You got to make sure you're getting zinc and selenium, because most people are pretty deficient in those. Selenium is one of the easiest ones you can get, 2 Brazil nuts a day. Yep. And then we'll do a full sex hormone panel. And then throw in a vitamin D and B12. Those are usually almost always deficient on everybody, or at least not optimal. If you're vitamin D, I've never seen maybe 2 people in the last, 4 years that I've been looking at labs, 5 years, and that have actually had a vitamin D about where I'd like it to be, which is around 55. So make sure you get your blood work done. Stay on top of it. You don't really want to go through all and figure out the lab work. Simple thing to do. There's an app called Chronometer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
it's great.
Calorie counter by or something like that. It's an app. It's free. But the cool thing about that one is that it literally spits out every vitamin, nutrient, mineral that you are intaking. So you'll be able to see where you are deficient. So if you're deficient anywhere, you've got something. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to speak on, you said vitamin D. You haven't seen that many people. One thing I like to drive home, especially as functional medicine continues to improve, right? We have more doctors who are specializing in athletic healthcare. There's a difference between healthy, normal, and optimal, right? And so in regards to vitamin D, while yes, about 80% of Americans are deficient, right? And they could be normal in vitamin D. I've talked to a few functional medicine doctors who like to see way beyond that 55 marker for optimality because they see performance gains come along with that. So, keep that in mind as you guys do embark on getting blood work or checking your vitamin mineral panels. Obviously, you don't want to be too far above the marker on certain things, especially like, water soluble vitamins, for example, or B vitamins. They come with their own set of complications. But with things like vitamin D, for example, it might be in your best interest to get that level up above what you think your doctor has told you is, healthy or normal. Just kind of food for thought there, but also to kind of backtrack on timing a little bit. The reason I asked that question is a lot of times I think thanks to, YouTube culture, we're watching Sam Sulek and I love him, by the way. But a lot of like bodybuilders, fitness people online, they'll emphasize the timing of meals prior to training, post-training, and the importance of them, or, right before bed, don't eat after 7, etc. All of these things we've heard over the years. And the reason I asked this question, versus, what's more important versus a calorically deficient state, like in prep, or in a surplus. When you guys are trying to gain muscle, you're constantly feeding yourself a surplus of energy, right? The goal is to store tissue. In my opinion, at least in my experience, I see that the timing of meals specifically seems to benefit people in their recovery and their performance more so when they're in a deficient state. Why is that? Because every 24-hour period, they're not consuming enough to maintain that regular, what we call homeostatic process and, weight balance, right? So timing your meals is going to be a lot more crucial, in my opinion, at least. I'm just from what I know, because you are able to specifically provide the energy necessary prior to that training. When you're in a surplus, well, you're eating more than your body would naturally want anyway, because you're trying to store tissue every day. It doesn't matter if that meal is consumed right at an hour and a half prior to training as much as it would if you're restricted, right? You're, for the lack of better words, you're starving yourself slowly and painfully over the course of however long your coach preps you for. But yeah. So, any questions so far, guys? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Jamie.
Okay.
When you're like fixing whatever you're going to eat for the week or the day, what is the first thing that you kind of look at? Like, you look at your protein and say, okay, well, I need to eat this much, so I need to eat this much of this meal, this much of this meal. Like, that's something I struggle with, like, when I'm trying to keep up with what I'm eating, is making sure that I struggle with eating enough. And then I get to the end of the day, and it's like, I need to eat 80 grams of protein and 1,200 calories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's easier if you can, like, I don't necessarily do my meals and put them in little containers for the entire week.
Right.
We do it in bulk. So, like, we'll cook all of our proteins and stuff on Sunday, and now vegetables and whatnot. Typically, I'll cook some, and then I'll do the rest, like, as the week goes. Fish, I definitely don't like to. Yeah.
Smell that in a Tupperware after 2 days, and you're gonna be knocked out.
But yeah, I would, if you can get your protein. I mean, your protein is your most important out of all.
Takes the longest to cook.
Yeah. And your carbs too, because your carbs are where you get your energy from. But as far as your proteins, you don't want to be trying to shovel in 1,200 calories at the end of the day like that. Then you go to bed and you're like, yeah. And it's just like, it's really heavy on your stomach. So I would, you're going to have to pre-plan those meals during the day. And if it's during the middle of the day that you have a hard time with, maybe try adding more to like your first 2 meals, your breakfast. So maybe incorporate more eggs or more egg whites. Even throwing in like a chicken sausage or something in with your breakfast that's not super fatty, but it's high in protein. Maybe add those sort of things in at the first part of your day, so that way if you do get behind, it's not 1,200 calories.
Yep.
So what is are you more hungry at night though?
I feel like I do get more hungry at night, but mine's like every 2 days. Like one day I'll go all day, not eat, not really be that hungry, and then the next day I'll eat like 4,000 calories.
It's a
Not 4,000. Like
a binge and purge cycle.
Yeah. So you'd probably be a good person to do, because I like to do a lot of things with my clients. I'll do like some heavier days, especially training days, and then non-training days, shrink the calorie window down. So like personally, I think I eat about 100 less carbs, a little more fats on my non-training days. And then some people I honestly have, even some of my like my bodybuilders, I'll have them do maybe 1,200 calories a couple times a week, just depending, just if I'm not saying things the way I want to move, their digestion is a little bit off. So doing something like that would probably be more beneficial to you. You can at least attack those days where you're the hungriest, and then you can just not feel so bad when you have to eat 1,200 calories in an hour.
Yeah.
So, because ultimately, if you're feeling bad about eating 1,200 calories, like something's, we gotta figure out something that you can be happy, because otherwise you're not going to stick to it. So, because ultimately, this whole lifestyle is, you got to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it enough, like where are you going?
Yeah.
So.
And I'll
find something that that works for your schedule.
I was gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
And it's a process too. Don't, like I always tell everybody, make yourself small goals to get to your big one. Because as you achieve those smaller goals, you're going to build up your self-confidence. You're going to build up, the habits, the consistency of doing these smaller things to get to the big one. So maybe with yours, it's adding something every day, or trying doing it this way, where you have a heavy day and then a light day. It's all about listening to your body and figuring out what works best for you, and don't take everything and judge it on, I didn't have a great day today, so I'm never going to get up here, and then you just quit. Like, make the small goals so that you can achieve those, and you're like, okay, now I'm one step closer to my big goal.
I was just going to say, I'll attempt to speak for her. Correct me if I'm wrong. She goes home with me. This is my fiance, JC. I think a lot of your struggles, babe, is more around planning, right? And dealing with stress at work. And so when she teaches school at Lawrence High School. And so when things are, ramping up at work and stuff, I think that the planning aspect of her caloric intake kind of falls off. And I think that's probably stress driven, but we both need to make a better point of like pre-planning our daily structure as far as meals. But you had a question?
Yes, I had a question.
Yeah.
I had a question for you as well. So how do you remain consistent working towards hitting gains around your nutrition? Because I know like for me, I know I have 2 good weeks and that's it. That's the only time that I know I can push myself and go on weights. And then the menstrual phase comes and it's almost like I'm starting back because I have to go to either like 5 weights down or just work myself back up to that week and then it's a cycle. And the second part of that question is, do you feel that doing the blood test kind of helped your energy levels and maybe like level that out a bit?
Yes, so I'll hit that one first because I feel like it's a shorter answer. When I had my blood work done, my hormones were extremely out of whack. So once we got my hormones leveled out, then it also helped with the menstrual cycle.
I think you need to say too, though, you'd have your blood tested before, not had a hormone replacement there, boys. And they told you, oh, you look great.
Yes, I have had that. That's why I say don't do your blood work with your regular doctor because they will look at you and say, oh, yeah, everything's fine. It's within range. And then I went and had my blood work done by a specialist. And that's when I found, oh my gosh, that's why I feel this way. And I would say now that my hormones are leveled out and my husband can vouch for me too, just personality wise and emotions and everything, I'm much more level. Even during that time of month, like ladies, when your estrogen is through the roof, you were going to come across as being crazy.
Same for dudes, by the way. Any of you guys who we can get into the PED discussion in a little bit, but
testosterone is your friend. Don't let social media ruin it for you. It is your friend. We need both, and that absolutely. Once you get all that leveled out, you will feel like a brand new person. So now onto the lifting and all of that. I think I'm wired a little differently. Maybe y'all can vouch for that. Like I push through anyways. I still lift even on the days that I feel like my body's not as strong. I might not necessarily push the same weight per pound as the week before, but I still train just as hard, even if I have to drop it 5 to 10 pounds, because there are some days, and I always train with my husband. And actually 2 weeks ago we were doing shoulders and I looked at him and I was like, I feel like wuss. Because I couldn't push what I pushed the week before, but it's the whole hormone thing. But I still pushed heavy weights and pushed through it. But I recognize that there are some days that my body, I can't push as much weight as others. And not every day is a PR day, as much as I would love for it to be, because I have to control not ego lifting. I don't know if any of y'all do, but yeah.
Let's define what ego lifting is for people.
Define what
ego lifting let's get a definition for the people. I'm sure y'all probably know, but I just want to. Okay, that's probably best if displayed, right?
Yeah, it's. Let's say Trey's over here pushing 450 on the leg press, and I'm doing leg press. I'm gonna push 475. That's just trying to outdo whoever's around you, and they don't even know you're competing. But yeah.
And for the guys in here who are not who don't have a partner, I promise you that you loading an extra 200 pounds on whatever you're doing is not going to impress the girl. It doesn't. They don't care. All right. So just keep that in mind. Keep your ego out of it and keep your yeah, they will.
One thing, Trey, and I know, and we probably have done it with some of our clients too, but when you all have 2 weeks, like you said, that you feel great, that's your progesterone, right? That's your feel-good hormone. That's why when women are pregnant, they have the glow. Like your skin's great. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. 2 weeks. So that's about 2 weeks after you menstruate. And then when you're menstruating, you have those 2 weeks that are like your, crankier phase, for lack of a better word. Sorry, I don't want to get a kiss anybody out. There's a lot of literature that shows that women should kind of take advantage of that a little bit, because estrogen is very joint protective. So in those windows of time when you're menstruating, those 2 weeks, if you want to split your workouts up a little bit, I would push heavier stuff on your estrogen side, because you have the joint protection a little bit. So like I have some women that I'll do like on their estrogen side of their hormones, like for 2 weeks, they'll push more heavier reps, like 6 to 8 reps, a little bit more maximal effort, closer to their 1 rep max, that kind of stuff. But then after, once they kind of go through the ovulation and all that, then you can kind of push more like the higher rep stuff. So 12, 15, 30, wherever you fall on that. But just kind of depends on the person. But I've had women that literally will just look at a band and like blow up, like, but like, so it depends on the genetics and all that other stuff. But I've had this one bikini, but she was a power lifter before, and I tried to tell her to do some dumbbell, that didn't work. She just got too big, and so I had to just literally do foam workouts the whole time. So, but anyway, but kind of look into that, and I think you might see some of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say too, also to add to it, some, of course with, every female's going to have different periods of menstruation, things like that, or cycles that can be heavy. I always also too, like for most women, I always tell them to always get your iron levels checked, ferritin levels checked, things like that, because a lot of times you might have a heavier than normal, and that's going to also fatigue you a lot faster too, and that's why in general, most women who are basically in that period phase, they're going to actually feel more fatigue and stuff. I deal with more female clients than male clients. And of course, I'm very transparent. I want them to tell me, hey, are you going through is your cycle this week or whatever it may be? Because of course, when they're doing check-ins, everything kind of explains more, whether they're holding more fluid, their body's more inflamed, because when estrogen is high, like just said, it's good for your joints, but yeah, you're going to be a little bit more inflamed than normal. And you're going to have a little bit more casual fatigue. And honestly, on top of that, if your iron level's low, you're going to have a lot more fatigue. And actually, that's probably where, you might want to talk to him a little bit too with iron supplementation for females too, because that's really big. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of women who are teetering that iron deficient level. And that's what we're talking about. Like most of your medical professionals, if you go in and get some labs done, if you're within the range, don't care if you're at the very tail end, the low point or the high point, if they just see you're normal, they're going to see you're normal, even though your normal is going to be different from another person's normal. Like I've had so many people who actually were hypothyroid, but they're still in the range, but at the very low end. But for their body, for what they are operating at, it's low for them. And there is a difference, And that's the thing is we do have the highs and lows. And that's why even if you're going to even a lot of my guys, I had one of my clients, he's like, yeah, I went to get my labs done. My doctor tested my test levels and he said, I'm good. He said, I'm like 280. That's good. I was like, 280? And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm 30 years old. It's typical for me to be that. I was like, well, you understand, as you get older, it's on a steady decline. So you're going to be lower than 280 the next year, the year after that. So, and you're in your early 30s, so you should be a lot higher. And of course, and I think a lot of medical professionals, especially not in an HRT clinic setting, they're apprehensive to do anything in terms of hormone replacement for a lot of time. I think they're more hesitant a lot more with women than men. Okay. Men, of course, I think we're more aggressive. We want to say, hey, you know what? I got my levels back. I got my libido's crap. I don't have any drive, no pumps or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
So of course we're going to drive it home more. Whereas, females, I feel like they're a little bit hesitant. They're like, well, it'll work itself out, or you're on birth control. It's normal. And honestly, it's not normal, and that's the thing. If you don't feel normal, guess what? It's probably not normal. There's a reason for it. So, and that's the thing is I say when you go, and that's like Jamie says, make sure if you're getting a full panel, a comprehensive panel that's checking hormones and stuff too, go to like a specific HRT clinic, like where Justin's at PushMed. At least they're checking all things, around, not just, oh, well, this looks normal. Your blood work looks okay, whatever. And you're really out of whack everywhere, but they just don't really want to bother. There's one that say, okay, you're done. I'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Recheck.
They can't give you a prescription for it, then you're normal.
I like to make the comparison in regards to like hormones across the board. Have you guys ever had your BMI done? Anybody serve in the military in here? Yeah. So, BMI, body mass index, right? It's a ratio of what weight to height, right? Well, just because it determines you to be in a specific category of, obese or normal or healthy doesn't always mean that's exactly what you are, right? So like, according to my BMI, I'm 240 pounds, 5'10". I'm obese, right? Do I look obese? I hope not. But so I always say that in regards to hormones as well, they're going off of a population standard chart where they're looking at what is deemed to be normal across thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And that range is just kind of a target for them. But your normal is not my normal. And if you're showing all the symptoms of low test and your regular, general practitioners telling you your levels are at 300 on the dot, you're good. Well, I don't feel good, doc. My libido sucks. My energy sucks. I'm pissed, So that's something to take into account. There's not one normal defined for all of us. And then really quick on the iron deficiency potential. I want to speak on that really quick because as JC says, all hot girls have low iron. So make sure you get it checked. But also making sure that the iron that if you do choose to supplement with an iron, it has some kind of amino acid or protein bond to it. The problem with iron in its, basic state, I think it's, iron succinate is the supplemental form, right? A lot of times the ability to have that absorbed is very, very, very minimal, right? So if you have a protein of some sort, and then when I say protein, I'm referring to any type of amino acid that is organically derived. So it could be one amino acid bond that is going to increase the ability of your body to absorb it and utilize it. And secondarily, furthermore to that, iron supplementation does not always improve your blood iron. And we're starting to see this more and more. You can have plenty of circulating iron in your bloodstream, but your cell's ability to uptake that iron is really what makes or break your iron deficiency and the symptoms that come along with it. So if you've been taking an iron supplement, I hope a good quality one, and your levels are still showing like low iron and you're still having the symptoms and what ferritin and the other metrics of iron deficiency are showing, look into copper or trace minerals because we're starting to learn more and more that copper itself specifically facilitates the basically crossover into your cells of iron. And if you don't have enough adequate copper in your diet and in your body can't really use that iron effectively, right? But we had another question right there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you guys think that once females do get their hormones checked and those start becoming more leveled out, do those hunger cues start becoming more prominent? So, like, say, I can't hold all my calories and I forget. I eat late at night, too. But my thing is because my hormones have been all over the place after baby, and, like, it's been all up and down. And they were like, here, just go on birth control. Everything's going to go fine. They lied. Yeah. But once I have gotten the blood work done, do you think it's fair to say that because of my hormones starting to level out, I am able to eat more regularly and notice my hunger more from that?
Yeah, so just speaking as a provider, iatrogenically, birth control is the worst thing providers do for women. And hands down, it causes more problems than anything else, especially like Depo shots, depending on what form of it. Any like combined oral contraceptive, this is terrible because what happens is it depletes testosterone. So testosterone, I've seen it time and time and time again. I can always tell the women that come to me who have been on birth control for a long period of time because their testosterone levels are less than 10. And so optimally, like when I'm treating like EHRT, when I'm treating women for any sort of hormone deficiency when it comes to sex hormones, it's my optimal levels for most of them are going to be around 60 to 80. So, they're never around that. So when you start having that, you start running into the same effects guys have. You start falling asleep after dinner, you get a little bit more abdominal fat, you have some central adiposity, and you'll start having like the fatigue and all that other stuff that kind of goes along with it. And plus your estrogen dosing might be too high. So that's when you're running into issues like your overeating and things like that, more water retention, digestion, bloating problems. All that kind of comes into effect. Progesterone is usually probably not dosed high enough on a lot of them. But even too high of progesterone could be problematic too. So, you honestly, like getting birth control from your primary care provider is like stupid. And even from an OBGYN, if you really want to protect yourself from having a child, I would more gravitate more toward like a copper IUD. As far as when it comes to when it comes from birth control perspective, either that or abstinence. That's like kind of like big stuff. It's I would never recommend. But I get them. I get it. You know, abnormal uterine bleeding is not fun. You know, but at the same time, there are better options in my opinion. So. Once you can get everything kind of normalized, yes, you should function like a normal female man. So
I have a lot of clients personally who ask specifically if those blood work, are going to help to be able to understand their hunger and eating disorder. Because I have a lot of clients who come in and are like, "Well, I had an eating disorder in high school, and now I have a lot of stress or I'm hungry."
and so blood labs too. So another thing women got to think about is honestly the best time to do blood labs for a female as far as sex hormone go. 3 days per month, day 19 to 22. That's the only time you should really do it. I can tell exactly where a woman is in their cycle just based on looking at the labs, but most providers cannot. I'm usually within a day or two every time I look, because everybody, for whatever reason, it seems like everybody always comes to me when they're menstruating, and I can always tell because their FSH is higher, and anyway, but day 19 to 22 is the best time to get blood labs. If you're really wanting to understand the hormone function of a female a lot better. The better test is always going to be Dutch. Dutch is a dry urine test. You got to do it 4 times in one day. There's a lot of rules, so just follow the little instructions on it and stuff. But not only do you get all the sex hormones, it'll go down like if your estrogen pathways are going down a wrong pathway, and what you need to take in order to fix that problem. And then you got your adrenal hormones, you got cortisol levels. So there's things that you can supplement with Jake here, and we can get you fixed up pretty easily. But in my experience, doing a Dutch far away is going to the doctor, getting blood labs, and wasting all this extra money. If you're just looking at sex hormones alone, and that's your only concern, just spend the extra money on a Dutch. I know it sucks; it's pricey. It's like $400 to $500, but you're going to get much more information out of it than any sort of blood lab. Because any blood lab is literally just a snapshot in time. I mean, I could draw, I draw a hospital constantly all the time. For whatever reason, hemoglobin's always super low at like 5 o'clock in the morning, but that's when we check every lab in the hospital at 5 o'clock in the morning. And we check it, and then I see some stupid number that doesn't make any sense. I'll recheck it again at like 9 a.m., and all of a sudden it's like 2 points higher. So, not the greatest thing. It means the difference of do I need to give this person blood or not, or should I wait? And so usually you check it again and wait. But so just kind of take that in mind. Blood labs are great for a lot of different things, but when you're someone that's just been tired of feeling like crap, you need to get some more the better testing.
And you can feel it too. Once, ladies, if your estrogen is too high and it's plummeted, all of your testosterone, once your testosterone level comes back up to where it should be, you can feel it. And it's like a night and day feeling, and I can't encourage it enough. If you do feel that way, I mean, it affects your mood, it affects your libido. It's not just, I'm just a female, so I feel this way. No, that's not the case at all. And the stuff that we eat plays a part in all the hormones and crap that they put in our food. Then you have birth control on top of that, and stress and everything else. So, yeah, get your blood down, man.
Oh, all right. Your question?
Yeah. How does that blood work timing change, or does it change for someone who's postmenopausal?
Oh yeah, when you're postmenopausal, just do it whenever. It's not going to matter, because usually when you're postmenopausal, so the criteria for postmenopausal women is no period for a year, or the blood panel shows that. And so if I look at someone, I can tell right away that their progesterone's nothing, it's undetectable, their estrogen's undetectable, and their testosterone might be anywhere from like 10 to 20. Crazy. So if you're postmenopausal, it doesn't matter.
What about the pre?
So there's the perimenopausal. So there's the women that kind of fall in this weird category where they feel like they're in menopause, and their bleeding is every couple of months, and so they're kind of going through this long period of time. Some women that can be 10 to 20 years. It's kind of unfortunate, and so that usually when we're seeing like a perimenopausal, when they're still symptomatic, they might not be having hot flashes. They may be having hot flashes. They may be having indigestion. They may be having all the libido problems. They're not having fun with their sexual partner anymore or whatever. But Typically, with the perimenopausal women, most of the times I'm not really looking at even prescribing sort of like progesterone or estrogen or anything. It's just testosterone only, and that'll usually kind of pick everything else back up where it needs to be. So.
Yeah. Your question, sir?
Yeah, so Trey been one of my mentors for a long time. So doing people, if they are on their cycle and they get bloated, how do you make an adjustment? What do you look for to adjust?
And that's always tricky because I think when it comes down to shows, we can't fit. We can fit the client to the show, we can't fit to the menstrual cycle. So it's one of those things, and honestly, like I've noticed when peak week, and I do know that especially if I have someone who's very sensitive, carb sensitive, I'm a little bit more apprehensive not to include as much carbs, but keep hydration up. Also, in terms of like sodium, I like regulate sodium a little bit more because I know their body's very sensitive to it at that point. So it's kind of making those adjustments then. And honestly, I play it as we go, meaning like we might have a pre-plan for peak week, but I have that client like stay in touch with me more often to kind of give me ideas of how things are going, even if it's more frequent pictures, so I can kind of see how their body's kind of handling it. That way, if I need to scale down or even go up, I can. It sucks because I've had so many women, and as far as in the past I've competed, and they've been in the middle of a cycle, like that, and sometimes the thing is, as some females get leaner now, sometimes they might not even have a cycle their last 2 months for a show, which is kind of good, but they still get symptoms. They still get the bloat. They still get that. They might just not have the full shed, and that happens too. So it's kind of like one of those things you just got to play it close to it. And of course, I think for most women, that's their biggest fear, is time. I've had so many women who will look at the calendar and say, "Hey, you sure we're going to do the show because my cycle's come off this?" And I was like, "Well, that's what we're planning. We're planning on it, but sometimes your cycle might come a couple of days early, or it can go drag out and go late. It happens. That happens all the time. It's pretty common. But at the same time, you just kind of have to just be close to that person and adjust it based on how they feel. And honestly, most of the time I say it all works out if you're very attentive with that. Now, granted, if you just send them a peak week, you don't say anything to them the whole week, they're freaked out. They're stressed because they're seeing different things in the mirror. And I say this a lot of times, which is kind of funny when you see it too. Well, we're as coaches, when we have our clients do check-ins, and of course we want usually check-ins to be the same background, same environment, things like that. Well, if you're going to a show and you're competing somewhere else, well, guess what? Your lighting's going to be different. The background's going to be different. Pictures are going to look different. And honestly, I know we're all sports critics, so we start freaking out because we're thinking like, oh, crap, I'm going to get bad. And honestly, nothing's probably changed. It's just visually the pictures look different or the video looks different because of the lighting and stuff, And so I always try to tell my clients too, don't freak out because things don't look the same as they did at home or when you're normally doing check-ins. Just realize that things are going to be a little different in a different setting, but we're still going to keep it going the way we need to and adjust things how we need to as well to get you at the best. And of course, a lot of times I've had people think like they look like, crap. And then they'll get on their stage lights and they look phenomenal. And they realize, oh, wow, you were right. It does make a difference, So, it's those things. So I say with that and with women, as long as you stay close by, keep them, I say prevent as much as you can stress. That's the thing. Women, you guys' hormones are always spiking always. Cortisol levels can really put a hindrance to you, especially in terms of like just, even if you're prepping for a show, because you're already stressed because, you got to think, us men, we have it easy. We just got to keep trunks on. We don't have to put makeup on. We don't have to do our hair. And I don't have any hair anyways. So, it's easy for us. For a female, you got like a schedule. And she can tell you, even when she did nationals, it's even more pertinent because, you have to be at certain places, certain times. If not, they're going to bypass you. They're going to skip. You're not going to get tan. You're not going to do all this stuff you need to. You're not going to be ready backstage, do your pump up. You're not going to be oiled up on stage, things like that. So you're freaking out if you don't hit those times like you need to. So, of course, I say as coaches, we try to do as we can is to minimize that stress, especially for female athletes. And I think, I know you work with a ton of females, so I know you see that a lot too. And, and that's the thing is too, and I feel like that's where you have to really, as a coach, like be close to that person during that time because that's going to be their stressful week, especially on top of knowing that they're going through their cycle too. Okay. So,
yeah. Good question. Any? Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to ask about, protein powders and go back to her because I used to have the same issue of not eating enough.
Okay.
Would you recommend somebody adding in like protein powder to help supplement and get that protein in at least? Maybe you're not getting all the calories you need, but at least you're getting the protein. And then what, is in your eyes the most optimal type of protein
Mhm.
that your like whey
Yeah.
typically?
That's a great question. With protein itself, right? It's a protein supplement. If you're not able to get in the protein that you need from your food, right? It's a great alternative to add in. And it depends on you individually. If you're somebody who is just falling short daily on your total caloric allotment or like goal, I would much rather you consume something along with that protein shake rather than just pure protein to try to get to that protein goal. Like if you're staying 500 to 600 calories shy every day somehow, I'd much rather you drink or consume a whole food based meal replacement. Something like MRP is great. It's going to provide a balanced ratio of carbs, protein, fat, fiber, vitamins, minerals, etc. Or having a good protein powder, making it into a smoothie with a complementary balance of carbohydrates as well, just to ease the digestion of that. But yeah, I would say use it where it's needed. If you are falling short daily, definitely, consume a good quality protein powder. And in regards to quality, this is not really my opinion. It's been kind of deemed into the nutrition science books. Whey protein, it technically, by all available data, is the most what we call bioavailable protein in the world, meaning your body has the highest potential to utilize the amino acids within it and use it for what it's needed. It also has the highest amount of essential amino acids compared to any other protein source in the world. And essential amino acids, guys, are amino acids that your body cannot synthesize without consumption. There are 11 amino acids that your body does a pretty dang good job of creating out of the other foods that we're eating. Very complementary. However, there's 9 that your body can't. And so that's where eating high quality protein sources, not just whey, whey is not the end all be all, but if you're somebody who's not consuming enough, chicken, steak, tuna, fish, whatever it may be, I would go to whey. Specifically whey protein concentrate, or not concentrate, I'm sorry, isolate. Concentrate is going to have typically, and we have multiple standards of concentrate, guys. I hope that there's no WPC 40 anymore on the market, but that is 40% pure concentrate. That was the first form of whey protein that was synthesized in like the 1960s. It's basically lactose with a little bit of protein. But there's certain standardizations. We got WPC 40 all the way up to 80. Even 80% pure protein concentrate is going to have some pro-inflammatories, some lactose along with it. When you get to the point of isolate, that's 90% pure by gram weight, we're pretty much stripping out the majority of the lactose. And if that's still a concern, then we'll have to take a step back, look at some enzymes to go along with it. Or we could go to the plant-based option for protein supplements, but I'm not a huge fan of plant-based protein not because it's bad for any, it's not really bad. It's just the bioavailability, no matter how complementary we make plant-based protein sources, guys. You can take rice protein, pea protein, hemp protein, pumpkin protein. You can put them together and make a pretty dang good profile of amino acids. Your body's ability to break it down is still nothing compared to whey protein isolate. And this isn't an argument for buy whey necessarily, but if you got to pick one, I'd probably go with that one for sure. But yeah, does that answer your question? Awesome. Thank you. Great question. Any?
Water. Talk to me about water. Yep. What kind of water? Because I'm just like beside myself. Distilled water, smart water.
I'm not a big smart water guy. Honestly, for me, spring or distilled are the two I would recommend. Now, if I do have someone who I feel like has some very serious reflux issues and has a very acidic environment, sometimes I'll recommend alkaline water. I'll put that in the diet. And usually what I'll do is I'll incorporate that sometimes even more the alkaline water on their fasting days where they're trying to hydrate. So that way it kind of neutralizes the pH more in their body. So that way at least they're not in a very acidic environment possibly. So that's really kind of how we do it. And of course, like when it comes to people, I say like, how much water am I supposed to consume? Everybody's different. Like me and my body, I'm 265 pounds. The amount of water I need versus you is way different, Because of course, like my perspiration rate could be a lot higher than yours. Of course, my body mass is a lot higher and stuff. Like the man might be a lot higher. So whereas me, I might be getting say 180 ounces to make sure like I'm voiding every 2 to 3 hours, and usually my urine is clear. That's what I want. That's my goal. So for me, if that means I need 180, 200 ounces to get that, then I got to hit that for myself. Whereas for yourself, you might say, I hit 100 ounces and I do the same thing. I wait every 2 to 3 hours. My urine's relatively clear unless I'm fasting in the morning. Of course, I might be a little bit yellowed in, but that's typical, that's normal. But everybody's requirements are different, you know? And that's why I think a lot of times, like, we feel like we're getting enough water, but a lot of times we feel like we are, we're probably not, you know? And that's usually the biggest question I usually ask my clients, like, how many times are you using the bathroom? Is it clear? You know, those things. Especially if I have a client that's competing, because, of course, hydration is a big deal even then, because I don't want their digestive system to slow down, you know? And I think it's a lot of times, too, when people get scared to drink water because they're afraid of the load and all that, well, you got to understand, your body filters and uses the water to filter all the nutrients we got too, and everything we take in. So in a sense, and what your body doesn't use, it gets rid of. So technically, if you do hydrate more, your body's going to be less likely to hold on to extra food, you know? And that's where you're actually going to expel more. Your body's constantly flushing out because it says, oh, you know what? We got plenty. I'm going to expel the rest of it out. Versus like, oh crap, we're behind. I need to keep whatever water I've got. And then you start realizing, well, I haven't used the bathroom in like 8 hours. You know, which is bad. You know, it's scary because then of course your body is probably backing itself up, everything's slowing down. So that's why I tell people, you know, water is probably your key component in terms of metabolism, function, digestion, everything. And a lot of times, a lot of people's digestive problems could be the water consumption. You know, but I'm not the person who's like, yeah, you need like this particular water. This is going to be the best for you. I know certain things. I don't prefer water that has added components in it. I think water should be just water, not anything else. Not adding like a ransom, you know, potassium or sodium. You know, no reason. Yeah. You know, to me, it's really pointless. It's best to make sure your consumption is. So of course, yeah, it is water. That's all it is. You know. But like I said, my choice, I'll say distilled spring would be the top 2 I'll recommend usually. And like I said, even if that's you getting like, you know, the gallon jugs, whatever it is, or you can go that way, I say those are way, or unless you got a filtration system, then of course you still, you know, at home you still can do that.
Now there's also, we ran into this problem last year when I was drinking the amount of water that I should drink, but my body was also not absorbing it necessarily because it was during prep and I was sweating. It was during the summertime, so, you know, cardio a couple of times a day, plus my workout. I had to actually add in Himalayan salt to make sure that my body was actually absorbing the water, because I went in to see him and I'm like, I feel like I am one big cramp. I went in to do my poses and stuff and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I can't figure out why I'm cramping so bad because I'm eating what I'm supposed to eat. I'm drinking water. So then we added in the Himalayan salt, and now I keep it in my gym bag just in case. Because I don't know how many of y'all are like I am, but I sweat profusely. I always have, and especially in the summer months. So if you feel like you're cramping or whatnot, then just drink your water and add a little bit of Himalayan salt to make sure that your body's actually absorbing that water also, because you can still get dehydrated.
Well, I think it's thing too. A lot of people, and we're all kind of like have been kind of taught this as we, you know, that been in fitness, like, oh, if you're cramping, you need more potassium. No, usually it's sodium that's the deficient, you know. But of course, we've always been almost like geared that sodium is bad because it can cause you to retain water. Well, like I said before, retention only happens if you're not getting enough water too, you know. So there's a balance of everything. And of course, your sodium is so important to your body as well. Potassium is important, but sodium very much so because we lose so much of it. When we perspire, we sweat, we lose water and sodium. We don't lose potassium. So we can be hypovolemic, but still be, you know, having treatment in terms of sodium loaded body. We perspire a lot. Especially, like, I know, like, she says she perspires what? I perspire enough. I could be eating this way. Okay. So of course my demand is a lot higher, so I have to implement sodium in each meals. Because I could not have a physical day, and I still could probably find myself cramping, even if I'm super hydrated or fluid, but I'm lacking my sodium. You know, and that's the thing is, I think when a lot of people, and I try to get them kind of retrain the body and retrain the mindsets that sodium is okay. It's okay to soft food. It's okay to use that. You know, because if you trust me, if you use it sparingly, guess what? Your body's going to adapt. It's going to adjust to it. So whenever you even touch sodium, you're going to feel like your body's in low because it's not used to have it. It's got to, you know, like I said, it's creating that homeostatic environment, so like it always do, you know. So the thing is, too, I think with the water intake's a big thing, but also, like Jamie said, the sodium. And the sodium, would be surprised to be what's going to be your pre-workout. That's what's going to make you feel like getting this energy. If your sodium is low, even just in contest, yeah, sodium, especially in the keto diet, is your energy source, you know, because you're losing, because you got to think, In a ketogenic diet, you're not taking in the simple sugars, so your body's probably it's not going to retain as much water because you're not holding the sugars in the body too. So you're constantly like using the bathroom, you're feeding. You're losing a lot of sodium in the process. So even, especially in a ketogenic diet, sodium is very big.
So that's a segue to the following. When your body is craving salt, what is that indicative of? And I can actually pinpoint in my day when I find myself crave, like I walk in the door from work and it's like, I gotta find salt.
Yeah.
I have this is brand new to me.
Well, the thing is too, whenever you're craving, basically your brain's getting a signal that you're deficient in something. Okay, this is signaling you something. It's the same as hunger pains. But usually we want to time it where we're not always going to that route, because usually it takes as a delayed reaction. Basically, when your brain gets signified like, hey, I'm hungry, it's time to eat, or hey, I'm low on sodium. It means that your body's probably been low for a while. So now it's like, okay, fight, flight, we gotta let you know. We gotta trigger something to get either craving it or the hunger rate or whatever it may be, so you can consume it because your body needs it. You know, same thing as being dehydrated and thirsty. Your thirst kicks in, but guess what? When that thirst kicks in, you probably have been dehydrated for hours. It's just now your body's in fight, flight, saying, hey, wake up, get some water in my system, so because at least I'm at the point of dehydration. You know, so. Key thing is always listen to your body. That's one thing I tell people. That's like even I tell clients too. If your body, for some reason, you're more fatigued than normal, or your body's not recovering, something's going on. Your body's trying to tell you something. And before you keep pushing and risking susceptibility to injury, it's best to either communicate with whoever. You got a trainer, you got a coach, you got Jacob here who knows nutrition. At least communicate with someone like that to kind of figure out, okay, why is this happening? You know, because if you keep pushing, your body's going to either fight back or it's going to fail. There's two things.
True that. Any questions? Oh, he said he didn't get his spotlight.
Yeah, he's got to be touched by everybody.
Any specific questions that you're curious about? Supplementation specific, super supplementation specific? I'm an open book regarding that. I've told you guys, if you talk to me in person, I'm very open and honest about that information, both supplement and super. So, yes, ma'am.
Supplements.
Yeah.
And digestion. I have heard two strong schools of thought. Take your supplements first thing in the morning, take your supplements at night, maybe before you go to bed. What's safe?
I think it
depends on what
yeah. And it depends also on the ingredient that we're talking about. Is it an acute ingredient that has an active effect in our body, like a stimulant? You know, that's going to be more time specific. Is it a vitamin that requires, is it a fat-soluble vitamin, right, that needs some kind of nutrient to be consumed alongside it?
Is that why they say eat X, Y, Z with the meal?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, precisely.
Like iron is one you should always take in iron with. But you should always take iron with food too, or vitamin C or something like that. But there's a lot of different things that it depends on the timing, even medication and stuff like that. Certain things should be taken away from other things as well, like thyroid medication should be able to some and stuff. So, but yeah, it just depends on what it is. But honestly, if it's just some basic stuff like multivitamins, just take it when you can remember.
Yeah.
But if you're something with digestion, you know, if your digestion is horrible, then you may need a supplement every single time. Like pain or some enzyme or something like that.
Yeah, it really, I mean, I think to drive home what Justin's saying, adherence is the most important thing regarding any aspect of, fitness, health, whatever it is we're trying to do. So it's whatever you can stick to consistently, whether it's morning or night. Now, in regards to the digestive aid specifically, if you know you're about to eat a food, or if it's in your protocol to eat a certain food that may cause some indigestion, or you're aware of it, you're treating yourself to pizza or something, you obviously are going to want to consume like a digestive enzyme along with that if you know that it's going to affect you, because that's more time specific, right? Because you're about to eat the meal. It probably wouldn't benefit you very much to wait 6 hours until you take that enzyme, and then go to bed after you've already eaten it and been suffering the consequences of doing so. But yeah, excellent question. Yeah.
I don't have a question, just a statement. I love what Jamie said when she said that she still went to her kids' game. She still was with her family. She still did everything that was important to her while she prepped for a show. I think prepping for a show actually makes you more responsible better person because you actually have to prioritize the whole day and you just grow from it. It helped me as an entrepreneur prep for a show back in 2010. So now I got my own business, but the little things that I did about the show helped me grow as a person. So thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Don't use prep and bodybuilding as an excuse to be a crappy human or a crappy spouse or whatever it may be. You know, it doesn't matter if you're hungry. It doesn't matter what super subs you're taking. If they change your attitude or whatever else, if you can't control those, then don't do it. You have to be able to control it because you're the one choosing to do this, not your spouse, not your kids, not your family members. So it should make you a better person because you're going to be more disciplined for it. Do not use it as a crutch to be a douchebag. Just don't.
Well, because at the end of the day, you all are making the choice to embark on this journey, probably for yourselves. I would hope for yourselves, right? You've made the choice to do this. It's nobody around you's fault, right? So to keep that in mind when you're feeling a certain way and you're wanting to lash out to your loved one or whatever it may be. It's your choice. And I probably do this a lot with stress in regards to business to her. And I get mad at myself for it. But, you know, I've chosen to do this, right? So just keep that in mind, right? Ultimately, it's our responsibility to take this action. And so it shouldn't be passed on to the people around us and closest to us.
If you do have a bad day, just recognize, you know, and apologize. Or ugly or whatever else acting out to somebody. And just apologize for it and do better. But yeah, don't use it as an excuse for bad behavior. Just don't.
Any questions? Yeah.
As far as intermittent fasting, you're all talking about that. What is y'all's opinion on like fasted training? Like first thing in the morning, you wake up, nothing on your stomach. What are like the pros and cons of that?
I think if that's something that you like, I would do it.
I do it.
Ultimately, like I was telling her at the beginning, like we got to find something that we all enjoy, right? So if you don't like to be full, you know, before you work out, then I wouldn't just do a fasting. It's not really gonna make or break your entire gains or anything like that. Because ultimately, if you're in like a deficit already, like you're training for a show or doing something like that, and then nutrient timing it can be important in certain phases, but ultimately, like if you can't even get to a workout because you feel like you want to throw up the entire time, then I would just find something that you can have a good happy.
Yeah, I think with just once again on adherence, right? Like it's whatever you get in the habit of adhering to and doing consistently, you're probably going to adapt to. So, you know, if for me, I do typically train fasted because I'll get up and have coffee and go straight to the gym, which coffee may or may not make me quote unquote fasted, but you get what I'm saying. Largely, I rely on the meal the night before that I ate to kind of fuel me. And it's just what I've gotten used to. I know other people who wouldn't even fathom the thought of getting up and training without food on their stomach, but it's really just what I've kind of done, you know?
I think like piggybacking off of what he asked you, like I've seen people on TikTok who will go to the gym first thing in the morning and be like fasted cardio. And they basically are kind of claiming that it makes you burn more calories because it's a fasted.
Oh, we could get into it. I'm sure we have diverse opinions on that up here.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
Like, is that true or no?
Yeah. I have my opinions on fasted cardio. It probably doesn't necessarily align with other opinions, so I'll let you guys go first.
Does that still depend on each person?
I mean, it also depends because I've had clients that we would do fast cardio, but I also had clients that were naturally hypoglycemic.
Oh.
So when it comes to that, we would do something small that would be enough for fuel and energy, but also keep the blood sugar level stable. Especially, and as funny as it may sound, most of our hypoglycemic people have been females deep into a prep. That we maybe like the last, so much, maybe 8-10 weeks, they might fall in the hypoglycemic spectrum. And of course, if they're giving me symptoms like they feel like their legs are like cement when they're on cardio and they're just drenched sweat and they're shaky, jittery, those are all signs of falling, low, glucose levels. So sometimes I'll have them test before, like test when they get up and they're fasted, and also test after their cardio. And there is a large enough decline of like 15, 20 points in the numbers, and you're falling under your normal baseline should be, then someone who's hypoglycemic, and you understand when you're hypoglycemic, your body is slowing down again, process, so that can stump your metabolism. In that case, so I say it's different from person to person. Now, if you're someone who wakes up, you say test the blood sugar, and I always say it's good for everybody just to do a test just to see where you're kind of sitting at. Because if that way, if you can prepare yourself to not be pre-diabetic, whatever, at least you know what you can do to kind of help that diet-wise, you know. And a lot of times, even sometimes with some of my clients that have a tendency to have higher blood sugar levels, sometimes their first meal might not have any carbs. It might be just protein fats. Okay, that way we're getting, still get food in the system, still get calories. The fats are going to help stabilize the blood sugar a lot better for them. So that when we do start consuming carbohydrates during the day, when they're active, their body's blood sugar levels are not going to be super high. Because in the morning time, and just to tell you, being diabetic, and I'm type 1 diabetic, so my blood sugar sometimes will spike up higher in the morning if I have a carb-based meal first. Versus throughout the day, it's fine. But during the morning time, it would, So it's based on the individual too. So yeah, in some cases, you say, yeah, fasting works well for this person because just it's easy for them to get up. They might have their cardio equipment at home. They're in their underwear. They just hop on, do the hour, be done. It's time efficiency is good there for that person, But then you might have someone that I might say, okay, I'm going to have my client. She's going to do 4-ounce grapefruit juice with 12-ounce water on top of doing a rice cake with a layer, like a tablespoon of almond butter. So that way she's getting some fats, some simple sugars, keep her blood sugar levels a little bit more stable and stuff too, because the fats are going to slow digestion. So it's going to help that state. Because if I just had her do grapefruit juice, guess what's going to do? It's going to do that, And we don't want to crash either. And that's what happens. Sometimes you have like that hypoglycemic reactivity to where if you get a simple sugar in, but you're really active, you have a big drop too. Because your body's demand is picked up a lot, And of course, we've seen that, and I know you see that with clients too as well. So, it's one of those things, it just basically fits the person itself, And then I have some clients that will, instead of doing fast cardio, will do their cardio very last, at night and stuff, after maybe after a final meal, or sometimes in some cases, depending on their schedule, might be their last meal after the cardio, but it might be a protein fat based. That way they're still not getting some sugars, but technically it still works for them, So it's all about schedules and the person really comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think my opinion on just fasted cardio in general, and this is just because I see a lot of general lifestyle people that I work with day to day. They take the information from a bodybuilder who's deep in prep, or they're following their journey on YouTube or whatever it may be, and think that it applies in the same regard to their life, right? We do know from looking at data on caloric expenditure in fasted cardio settings that yes, you do burn more calories, you oxidize more lipids during a fasted cardiovascular session, right? However, that homeostasis wants to always find its middle ground. And so you are much more likely after this fasted state of cardio to have a higher storage of adipose upon reconsumption. So it levels itself out at the end of the day. So one thing I like to drive home, and I'm not speaking to the bodybuilder who's deep into prep. Your conditions are different. It applies differently. However, general lifestyle people, do not convince yourself that because you're doing fasted cardio in the morning, that you are somehow giving yourself a advantage over a simple caloric restriction, right? We're talking, very minuscule. Now, once we get into prep setting or very, very, very intensive protocols, my hand's out of it at that point because I'm no bodybuilding coach. But I do know enough to know that, don't convince yourself that those like that little of an aspect of your day is going to drive the results, right? Big picture first, macro, then we'll go micro like that. So.
And don't piggybacking off him. Don't think for a second that any amount of cardio or working out can let you just go eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Unless you're blessed, man. Unless you're blessed. Yeah. Well,
on the bike or hour on the treadmill, I mean, you're talking maybe 150, 200 calories the most, depending on the intensity level. You're not talking anything crazy.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna. It's not enough for you to afford that Krispy Kreme donut.
It might earn you one.
So we just
Yeah. Yeah. And in regards to cardio, especially when it comes outside of endurance training, like unless you're a marathon runner or somebody who's embarking on sports that require a very, very optimal cardiovascular conditioning. In regards to body composition, cardiovascular activity should be looked at as a tool, right, to increase that gap of caloric expenditure at the end of a 24-hour period, right? So, it's not the cardio that's burning the fat necessarily. Like, yeah, technically it is, but you're creating more of a deficit for yourself at the end of the day, right? To further you into that progress where you need to be. So,
Trey and I, we use cardio more like in our off-season plan to get them to eat more food.
Yeah.
There's different tools, different ways to do it, depending on where they are at in their.
Because at a certain rate of intensity, right, for like aerobic cardio, you can increase ghrelin pretty significantly from that, like a slow, steady state. And ghrelin's the hormone that stimulates hunger, typically. So,
plus you're increasing your digestion.
Yeah. Well, true. Yeah, that's steady state, not high intensity, right? Yeah. Don't go sled pushing and think you're improving your digestion during that period. That's a different point.
Getting that cookie and eggs.
Yeah. Earning it. Any other questions, guys? No? Come on.
Few minutes left.
I know somebody's got something they just want to ask. They're going.
Speaking of the women too, I know she alluded to a little bit about like diet, macros, things like that too. But don't let any coach put you on, being women especially. Don't let any coach put you on, let's say, carbs probably less than 70 to 100 per day. There is a floor for optimal menstrual health, right? So most women need at least 100 grams of carbs per day to still sustain that, and even going to like fats as well. You still need an adequate amount of cholesterol to make 6 hormones too. So you do need both of those nutrients. You can't just completely be devoid of a lot of that stuff. So just something to take into consideration.
Random question. Is your stomach supposed to hurt after a leg day? Is that
Sorry?
maybe it's a pre-workout?
It could be. That's
leg day?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I laughed.
Lower body day.
Like, do you feel like you're gonna throw up during your workout?
No, yeah, towards the end, but it might have been the pre-workout that I took and tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't from me.
There's some guys I used
Was
to
it?
What?
Was it the pre-workout? Was it something from me?
No.
All right, good. All right. Yeah, it was the pre-workout then, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I knew guys that would like throw up every time they did legs.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there's some leg days where I feel like I'm on.
Well, unless
it
yeah.
depends, like if you're pushing the intensity and everything with your workout. I mean, sometimes that's part of it.
One thing too, and I'll just speak because this is something that I've dealt with personally. I struggle with a lot of lower back issues, just pain through lifting heavy ass weight for years and years. So as somebody who's